Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time it is a review of the 2019 biopic musical Rocketman. This is a film that is a love letter, a massive, marvelous love letter to the music and the life of Sir Elton John. If you are a fan of Elton John, this is a must-see, and I'm pretty sure you've probably already seen it by now. And probably multiple times, and you're gearing up to purchase it on Blu-ray. But even if you're not the biggest fan of Elton John, I still highly recommend this movie because this is a marvelous movie. This is a fantastic film in terms of the production quality, in terms of the direction, in terms of the editing. It's one of those movies that makes you fall in love with cinema all over again, as well as music. It does such a great job really bringing out the best of that film has to offer as a visual medium and music has to offer as a audio experience. It's easily, to me, one of the best biopics I've seen in years, and it's one of those films that is unquestionably unique, much like Elton John. It's fitting that Rocketman is a unique take on the traditional biopic. It's not like Bohemian Rhapsody. It's not like a lot of these other biopics that tend to kind of stay closer to reality. This is one of those biopics that when you go into it, look at it as more of a tribute to the man himself, his legacy, and his music. This is not a true to life biography. This is a Broadway musical style appreciation for Elton John. And it does not pull any punches despite that tribute feel and look to it. It still knows when to hit hard, which is something that Bohemian Rhapsody and other biopics like this do not tend to do. They tend to kind of, take things a little bit easy. They don't want to be too controversial. They tend to not make things too real. But this is rated R, and it is not afraid at all to show Elton at his most unseemly and at his worst. And that makes his story all the more powerful and all the more memorable, and makes it all the more impressive and inspiring that you get to see this spiral that he ends up going on after he reaches the highest of highs that most of us will never reach in our lifetimes. I mean, there are a lot of us, we would love to reach heights like that of fame and fortune. And Elton did that. And despite that, he still spiraled completely, totally out of control. Because he didn't really learn to love himself. And I really think this film has a great message. This is a movie that I think you could easily play in rehab facilities in the future to really get home to people who are addicted to drugs or alcohol, and to show them a perspective that they might not necessarily see that often, of someone who has it all and was addicted and was in the same boat as they were, or they still are, and finally had the courage to say no more. I'm not going to be a part of this spiral anymore. I'm going to learn to love myself instead of be the devil on my own shoulders. Now, the film was directed by Dexter Fletcher, and Dexter Fletcher, I think he did some extra shooting, like some reshoots for Bohemian Rhapsody, and that's a big part of why he got this directing job. And I'm glad he did. The direction in this is dynamic. It's excellent. It's the type of direction where it is just not only visually impressive, slick, stylish, but it also really captures so many emotions so well that it gives you chills. Like, there are so many moments in this movie that just give you goosebumps. Not only because of the music that's involved, not only because of the performances, but because of the direction and the cinematography and the editing and everything combined. I mean, from a technical standpoint, Rocketman is Oscar worthy. Like, this film deserves an Oscar for best cinematography or editing. It absolutely deserves that. There are some moments where the CGI of the crowd and some other moments can be a little bit noticeable in terms of not really being the best, and it kind of takes you out of the film a little bit. But other than that, I mean, there are so many moments and scenes in this that are just jaw dropping in terms of their spectacle. They're larger than life, just like Elton, and they really are a sight to behold. And I love seeing them. They're works of art. The underwater sequence, the sequence where Elton actually rockets off into the sky. And not only that, like, this film has some of the best transitions I've seen in a movie in a long time. Like, the transitions in this are really on point. They are very impressive. And yeah, I mean, the editing by Chris Dickens is excellent. This is a movie that's 121 minutes, but it goes by at a really quick pace because it's got a simple setup, but it's extremely engaging and it's entertaining and the music is great, and it's one of those films that really does transport you into a different world that only cinema can provide, and does it with some of the best tunes out there. I mean, it's one of those movies that I truly feel is legitimately special. I really do feel that way about the movie. I cannot give Lee Hall enough credit for his script. I think his screenplay is brilliant. It's a very unique take on Elton, his life, and his music. The framing device he has is quite inspired. It starts out not like most biopics do. It starts out when he's at his lowest point. He's going to rehab. That's the whole framing device, is that Elton is in rehab and he's reminiscing about his life and his rise to fame and his fall. And it's a simple framing device, but it works. And the way that everything threads together, way that everything is edited together in terms of the different plot points is really spectacular. It's one of those movies that I really think is a masterclass in a lot of ways, in terms of transitioning to different scenes, in terms of having all these different threads going on, in terms of the plot, in terms of events in Elton's life, and hitting all the right beats at the right time to create an incredibly satisfying experience. Is it true to life? Not necessarily. There are a lot of things in this movie that didn't happen the way that the film says they did. There's a lot of songs that Elton performed that he in places that he didn't actually perform them, or songs that the film's trying to say he sung after rehab, like "I'm Still Standing," that he did long before he eventually went to rehab. But it doesn't really matter to me, because it's about the message. It's about the... I'm trying to think of the right word. It's not about factual accuracy. That's not what it's about here. And I think the choice to go outside the box and not worry about that really helps this movie. If Elton had any problems with this movie taking so much liberties with his music or events in his life, he wouldn't have signed off on any of these changes. Elton John is the executive producer of Rocketman. You could bet your bottom dollar he knew what was going on, and he approved all of it. I don't really care about factual accuracies here. This isn't a film that's trying to do that. I think it's trying to. It's more about a message. It's more about an ideal. It's more about the ideal of and the message of Elton John and his music. It's not about his life and being as factually accurate as possible. And I think that really is something that some critics didn't care for. And I get it. I understand. If you're looking for a factually accurate biopic that's as close to reality as possible, you're not going to get that with Rocketman. But if you're willing to put that aside and you're willing to just look at this film as for what it was intended to be, which wasn't anything like that, I think you might be surprised by ultimately what you get out of it. So, yeah, it's one of those movies that really does put me in awe. I mean, and I think I'm definitely a little bit biased, not only because I'm a fan of Elton John. I'm not like the biggest fan ever, but I do like a lot of his songs. But because I'm a guy who loves movies, as you all know. I love film as a visual medium, but I also love music. And music has been a part of my life for as long as I can remember. I've been in choirs for half my life. You know, it's brought me a lot of joy. And so when these two things combine in a way that is just so spectacular, like what is on display in Rocketman, it's just something that makes my heart soar. And it just makes my soul just feel so much brighter. And it's something that it's just hard to put into words sometimes. And this film does a great job showing that on film, that feeling of what it's like when film and music combine together into something that is just out of this world. Because there's a scene where he's playing Crocodile Rock at the Troubadour, and the filmmakers had this brilliant idea of showing everyone floating, including Elton. At one point when he's playing the song, he's floating in the air, playing the piano as if he's flying. And it just captured that moment where those two mediums meet together in perfect harmony. And it was just magical. It's just a magical sequence. And there's a lot of stuff like that in this movie. That's just pure magic. And yeah, this music by Matthew Margeson. I love the score. I think it's a great score. It not only captures the best notes of Elton's best music, but it brings out some of the best notes and makes them even stronger. It's one of those things that his score enhances songs like Rocketman with the orchestral accompaniments and everything, and other songs that Elton has done. And I really feel that the sound mixing, like I said, I think I might have said that earlier, it's really impressive. But so is the vocals. I mean, Taron Egerton actually sang the songs. Unlike some of the other music biopics where they're lip syncing or they're having somebody do like the best impression they possibly can of Freddie Mercury or whatever, Taron Egerton sang these songs in his range. He sang these songs in ways that were not exactly the same as they are on the records. And that just makes his performance all the more just, I don't know if personal is the right word, but all the more impressive because he's singing these songs and he's also playing the man. And he's not the only one. There were other people who were singing, music as well. Like there's even moments where his family is singing a song, and then he has like his best friend sings a part of it. Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and it's just like I said earlier, it's like a Broadway. It is. It has this Broadway play feel to it. But that's just something I love about it. I mean, when you see young Elton John playing the bar piano and playing Saturday Nights, All Right for Fighting, and then it transitions into a young adult Elton who's dancing in a choreographed number in a carnival with Saturday Night. It's just really something that puts a smile on your face. It captures the spirit of Elton John and his music perfectly. Like, it's one of those meldings, it's one of those perfect meshes of a man and music and film that I honestly have seen. And I know some people think it's like, oh, it's way too high a praise, like, oh, but this is honestly how I feel about this movie. Like, as much as I love films like, let's as much as I enjoyed films like Crawl or John Wick 3 this year, I mean, I would have to say I would put Rocketman a little bit higher over them, despite the fact that I really enjoyed those movies and I thought they were great and really good in their own right. Rocketman just had something special to it that really spoke to me and to my sensibilities and to my heart, that I can't really say the same for those other films. That being said, though, those movies are really good, and I will be sharing my thoughts on them in the future. But even the flashback scenes are really I don't know if a joy to watch is the right word, but a lot of them are. It's just the film is just, it's one of those movies. It's like a puzzle, and like it has all the right pieces, and they all fit together just the way they should. And yeah, I mean, it's a film that this is mostly just me singing praises, but for good reason, because I can't really think of anything from a technical standpoint that I found wrong with the film, or a storytelling standpoint that I found wrong with the film, even if it's taking some creative liberties with how things were. It doesn't really bother me because I wasn't going into it expecting it to be as accurate as humanly possible. But before I go, I definitely want to give as much praise as I can to the cast. This is a great cast. Taron Egerton really outdid himself here. He really elevated his game to a whole other level with his performance as Elton John in this film. This is easily, hands down, his best performance to date. He nails Elton's mannerisms, even the way that he smiles. He really captures Elton down to a T. And despite the fact that he isn't gay, he still manages to, from what I've seen other actors and their interpretations of, what gay is, he does it in a way that isn't too flaming or stereotypical. And it's actually rather respectful and realistic, and it doesn't come across as forced. And it's just a really impressive performance. Not only because he's able to capture this larger than life just dynamo that is Elton John, but he's also singing. He's singing the songs. And there's scenes in this movie where he's emoting while he's singing, and it's just such a wonderful sight to see. Him just blossom into this just really talented, multifaceted actor. He deserves an Oscar nomination for this. That's how good his performance is in this film. He not only became Elton John, but he managed to capture the spirit of Elton, which is harder than it looks, because there's a lot of biopics out there where you have the actor who nails the mannerisms, looks the part, but can't nail the spirit. Doesn't have that down. And Taron absolutely had that down. There are other actors who were also quite good, if not excellent. I mean, Jamie Bell, Richard Madden. I really liked the actor who played Yeah, Bernie. Yeah, Bernie Taupin. Jamie Bell, I thought, really did a really wonderful job as Elton's longtime songwriter and best friend. I really bought the chemistry between those two. I really bought that those two were longtime friends and friends that were so close to one another that they could actually call themselves brothers. That's that's exactly what you want out of that kind of performance. Even someone like Bryce Dallas Howard impressed me as Elton's mother. It was a nice role for her to flex her acting muscles. And there's a lot of other actors and actresses that, really did nail their roles quite well. Um, of course, there is his original lover, who John Reed, who's played by Richard Madden. He did a really remarkable job playing a total asshole, like the ultimate dick, just a total fucking prick. He did a great job playing that. Like, you hated that guy. You wanted to reach through the screen and just punch him in the face yourself. Like, what an unlikable douchebag. And there's other, actors and actresses in the cast that do really well too. There really isn't anyone in the cast that stands out as someone who did a bad job performance-wise. But it is Taron's film. It is unquestionably his film. He is front and center, and he has most of the screen time, and he just runs away with it. He absolutely crushes it. He crushes this role and this performance. And it's just one of those movies that I could easily see myself watching again and again, because I just really love the way it looks. I love the style of the film, and it's just got great music. So it's one of those things that's like, hey, I got an excuse to listen to great music and to look at a great looking movie with great performances. Sign me up. Um, does it say anything revolutionary? Does it really break any new ground? I don't know. I don't know if it does or not. I would say when it comes to providing a more unique perspective or take on a biopic, I think it does break a little bit of ground, because there aren't very many biopics like this that play around with the facts fast and loose with reckless abandon, and are willing to cling to more of an idea or an ideal or a spirit versus factual accuracy, um, and to do it in such a way that is just such eye candy. Like, there are other films that look nice and look good with a biopic or a musical biopic, but I can't think of one that has this kind of perspective, this kind of look and style and flair to it. It really is one of a kind in a lot of different ways, and all of those ways are good, if you ask me. So yeah, I really don't know what else to say about Rocketman. It's a movie that, like I said, I can't sing enough praises for the film. And it's a movie that I definitely highly recommend to anyone that was curious about it, or anyone that is a big fan of Elton John and his music. And it's a movie that right now is my favorite film of 2019. And I was not expecting myself to say that, but it just kicks off all the right boxes, and it just is a film that really, like I said, it really did make me fall in love with cinema and music all over again. And that's something to me personally that means a lot, because there are days and there are times where I get a little jaded, and I feel a little bit indifferent, and then there's a film like Rocketman that comes along and really does lift my spirits and changes my outlook and makes me feel like there is hope for cinema and other things like it going forward. So anyway, I don't know what to say about Rocketman except if I were to rate it out of 5 stars, I would give Rocketman, like I said, can't really think of anything that I found personally wrong with it. So I'm giving 5 out of 5 stars. 2 thumbs up. Yeah, it's a great film. So anyway, thanks for watching my review of Rocketman. And as always, I will see you later. See ya.